Alex, want to thank you very much for being here to do this presentation on how to do a presentation.
Yeah, I know, right? We're doing a presentation on how to do a presentation. So let me see here. Okay, is there anybody who cannot see my screen?
I see it.
Perfect. So this is how to give an online presentation. That's awesome. I'm going to talk a little bit faster just for the sake of time. I'm already a fast talker, so I apologize, but because we are a little bit strapped, I'm going to go a little extra quick. So on our journey today, we're going to talk about creating a great online presentation, what's on everybody's mind, tips to make it all work, tools, tech stuff, as well as Q&A. So you can use the chat to stay connected. If you can ask any questions there, I will try to answer them live, but no guarantees given the sake of time. So
I'll go ahead and monitor the chat and let you know so you can.
Thank you, Mr. Beathan. Greatly
Welcome.
appreciated. So I have a question. How do you feel about giving online presentations and what are your concerns? I would love to just hear one person from our lovely audience here share with me, what are your concerns about online presentations?
Making sure it's not boring.
Making sure it's not boring. Yeah, that's definitely probably one of the biggest one, right? Because we all get really nervous about me doing online presentations. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to get, in front of all these people and whatnot, right? So everybody's thinking like, what will it look like? Do I have the right tech? Is it going to be valuable? Is it worth my time? Can I really even do this, right? Some people are like, I can't do it, right? All right, so I just want to remind you that one, you can do this, and just with a few tips, tricks, and resources, you will be all set. But before you get started, before you do anything, there's some things that you need to consider. The first one is, why are you giving an online presentation in the first place? I know this seems like a weird question because usually at this point you're like, I'm going to give an online presentation, but you really do need to consider, why are you giving an online presentation? Is that the best format for your content? Are you giving one because everybody's giving one? Are you giving one because you've got something really important to say? So you need to really think about why you're doing an online presentation in the first place before just deciding to do one. I know a lot of people, they do a lot of things simply because somebody else is doing them, right? That's not necessarily a good reason to give an online presentation. Sometimes it's also just not the best medium, right? Some things are better served with a video, an update, maybe a PDF emailed out. So those are things that you want to think about when you're, before you even start to dive in there. The other thing you want to think about is, who are you giving this presentation for? Right? The presentation is going to depend on your audience, right? Are you giving it for technology advisory committee? Are you giving a presentation for 12-year-olds, right? Are you doing something in a particular industry for a specific group of professionals? Are you going for moms, right? So your presentation should be driven and your content should be driven by your audience, right? So you need to think about, okay, if I'm giving a presentation, who am I giving it for? So that way you can tailor the content appropriately to the audience. Nobody wants to give a presentation on astrophysics to 6-year-olds, unless they're 6-year-olds learning about astrophysics and somehow you can make that cool. I don't know if you can, but there's always the possibility, right? And the other thing is, how do I make the content valuable, right? Because after all the things that you do, you should be delivering value in all that you do. Any presentation, it's got to be delivering value. What's the objective? What are you trying to get across? Is it valuable to your audience? And, will people enjoy it? So after you've done that, then you can move on, right? Then you can move on, right? Okay, so what next? First, choose your style. So decide if you're going to do a live presentation with or without slides, right? So either format can work really well depending on your audience. I'm a very excited, exaggerated, happy, bubbly person. I could give a fun presentation without any slides. Obviously, I like slides because I like to put stuff on them, right? But either format will work well depending on your audience. So you need to decide, is this a live presentation? Is it with slides? Am I doing camera on, camera off, right? And then you need to decide where you're going to give your online presentation. Is it going to be Zoom? Is it going to be Facebook? A lot of people, when they think online presentation, they assume that it is going to be in a Zoom meeting, right? but we've got live stream presentations, we've got webinars, we've got social media, we've got, different types of workshops and things, different tools, right? Different software. So you need to know not just what you're going to say and who you're going to say it to, but you need to know where you're going to say it, right? Because that might dictate what type of presentation you do and how much stuff you have access to. All right. So most presentations are going to have slides, as you are watching right here, right? So let's talk about slides. Okay. You got to make them good, right? Yeah. You want, yes, head nod, right? Okay. Yeah. Make your slides good. Okay. So first thing, right? Choose your software. Again, software should be dependent on what particular features you may or may not need. So in terms of presentation software and slides, we've got PowerPoint, we've got Google Slides, we've got Keynote, we've got Canva. So I have lots of use cases for all of these. If you're a Mac user, you probably use Keynote, right? If you're like most people, you probably use PowerPoint or Google Slides. I prefer to use PowerPoint because I can keep all of my branding consistent. I love to upload my own custom fonts. So while you can keep all your graphics and animations and other things consistent, whether that be in Google Slides, Keynote, or even Canva, you can't necessarily keep your fonts and things consistent in Google Slides. So I pretty much prefer to use PowerPoint because I can use it online and or offline, and I can keep my brand really consistent. I do love Google Slides though, because it's super fast, super easy, and doing that cloud connection and sharing is really beneficial. So if you're giving an online presentation and you're online, and you want to be able to send it out or be broadcasting it, Google Slides is a really, really great way to go. Again, Keynote for Mac users, which is the equivalent for PowerPoint, and also Canva. So a lot of people don't know that you can build a really beautiful presentation in Canva, and Canva is also free. So you got free graphics, free templates, free everything, and their template library is way more expansive than PowerPoint, Keynote, and Google Slides combined. So if you're looking at making a presentation really pretty or having a lot of graphics or things to add, Canva actually can be a really, really great option for you. And it still can incorporate animations and video. So something else, something to consider when you're giving your presentation is to choose your software. Okay. A couple tips for some great slides, right? Only put the minimum amount of content needed to get the point across on the slide. Bigger fonts are usually better because nobody wants text-heavy slide. Avoid long blocks of text. And even this is a little bit text-heavy for me. I'm kind of like, I don't know, right? But try to keep the text to a minimum. Makes it a lot easier for people to digest, right? Long blocks of text, no go. Short text, great, okay? Use a theme to keep things consistent, right? You probably have noticed at all this presentation, we've gone through these first set of slides and you've got same fonts, colors, patterns, all that kind of good stuff, right? So use a theme to keep it consistent, whether that's one that's been handed to you or one that you create yourself. As I like to say, don't forget pictures. We saw our funny little nervous Nilly child there at the very beginning. And another little tip is GIFs and videos make great additions, but don't forget to do a sound check if you're playing a clip, and have it already downloaded onto your computer, because video tends to crap out often in an online presentation, especially depending on what people's playback is. So while you may be running gigabit internet and be wired in, not everybody else is wired in, right? So you have to think about how other people can play back your content. So if you do have a video on your end, at least make sure it's downloaded, but take consideration if you're going to add video to your presentation, because sometimes it can be a hiccup and you definitely need to double check the sound, right? But otherwise, GIFs are great, right? I love GIFs because they're fun and they move and adds a little spark to the presentation, keep people engaged. So yay for GIFs, use them more often. And if you want to know where to get GIFs, you can get them at giphy.com. Couple other bonus tips I loved, including with slides, is create a holding slide or a slideshow that can play before and after your presentation. So if you're giving a presentation, it's obviously very important to start on time. Alex is not good with time. So having a little slideshow running beforehand while I'm doing whatever I need to be doing prior to a presentation is really helpful. So I highly recommend it. It's a great place to have advertising, thank you to your donors, important information. It's just good repeating content, right? So before you give your presentation, if you're able, having a holding slide or a slideshow before and after is awesome. If you can, animations can be really fun, but don't overdo it. And then you don't have to put everything you say on a slide. So just keep a note, like one of the things, like people feel like I have to put every little thing I'm going to say on a slide. You don't need to do that. A lot of people are trying to listen and tune in. If they're trying to read, then it makes it harder to listen and vice versa. So you don't have to put everything on a slide. You can put a decent amount. I try to put the content on the slide that I need, especially if I'm going to send out a copy, right? Ask someone to proof your slides for typos, errors, anything else really crazy. And if possible, again, send your slides out after your presentation to your audience. So one of the reasons I have a little more content on my slides is because I intend to give you all a copy. So, right. So after you've covered making your slides nice and pretty, right? You know your audience, you know your content, right? You're going to do it on PowerPoint, and you've got all these tips to make your slides really great, right? So you've got your presentation together. Awesome, right? So let's talk presentation. That's all of this, right? Because you got to look good while you do it, okay? So some tips for being a great presenter. One, set your audience expectations. So from the very beginning of this presentation, I told you exactly what we were going to cover so that you would know exactly what we're going to cover. I also notated that if you have any questions, leave them in the chat, right? Disclose any important details, like if it's being recorded, blah, 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 blah. That's really, really good. Don't be afraid to be yourself, okay? People like you, genuine, authentic you. If you're like, Alex, I'm really boring, I really don't know if I can do that, I will find a way to make you interesting while you can still be your authentic self. You have something to offer people. So don't let that, all those bugs get in your ear and people telling you stuff, right? You're awesome. So give an awesome presentation and be yourself, okay? Look the part, stay branded, right? And a lot of times people don't think about the brand with their clothes, but I do. Some people just think about, oh, be professional. I try to maintain some semblance of brand consistency in my wardrobe, if possible, because it helps. And for all of 2020, if you attended any one of my presentations or workshops in a number of areas, so I was kind of all over the map, you will notice that I had the same hairstyle and the same dress and the same jewelry. And you will have seen that market everywhere. And it's like, oh, yeah, that girl in the red dress. So, you know, keeping your wardrobe and your presentation style a certain way can be very, very beneficial. And double check your background, right? So right now, my background, you know, I got some plants over here and normal stuff, right? But there's not like a giant photo of like a naked man behind me, right? Check your background, make sure you don't have anything weird going on or anything crazy or, you know, windows that are bringing in too much light, right? Those are really, really important things. Okay, few more tips, right? These things really, really help. Do a few test runs of your presentation, because even the most seasoned professionals can bomb, myself included. I have bombed despite me giving hundreds of presentations. Really important. Don't be afraid to ask questions to your audience, as I did at the beginning. Really helps to keep people engaged and make things a little bit more fun. Don't apologize for everything. So I notice in online presentations, we tend to get really nervous. And so when something's not going perfect, we're always like, oh, I'm sorry. Don't apologize for everything. I think what has been really beneficial, giving everybody moving to the remote environment, is everybody's a lot more understanding, and you don't need to apologize 750 times for the dog barking in the background or the child running in and screaming and all that other kind of jobs, right? If you have physical items, right, feel free to hold them up to the camera. So oftentimes people are giving presentations that are talking about a particular item. It's much more fun to hold that item and talk about it than to just, you know, talk about it in theory if you have it, right? Because then people are paying attention to what it is. You're doing something with your hands. It's a little bit more engaging. Games are a great way to get people engaged. I do have a few games that I like to play on Zoom, you know, if people have time or if I have time in a presentation. And there are lots of great digital games that you can incorporate. That's another great way to really get people engaged, is to bring out people's competitive spirit, because that's when like things start to get extra good and really, really, really fun. And then give out prizes if you can, because no presentation is complete without a prize. So if you have something to give away, that's awesome. If you don't, people aren't expecting it, but people always remember the person who does presentations who gives stuff away. They always remember that person. So just keep that in mind. All right. So I know that was a lot of tips, but wait, there's more, right? We got to talk some tech stuff. Okay. You need more than a great smile to make that presentation work, right? So you want to minimize your tech problems by having a solid setup that's going to reduce issues. Now, this is going to be a long list. I do not expect you to read this list, but you will have a copy of this presentation. So that's what you can refer to. But I just want to highlight a couple things. Online presentations need good internet. Wire in, right? Get great Wi-Fi, right? If you can do that, that's important. Ethernet cable, try not to just be connected to, router, cloud, blah, 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 right? Good computer, really important. Right operating system, make sure everything's up to date. You don't want your presentation crashing because Zoom needs to run an update or your computer needs to run an update or there's an update here, an update there, right? So make sure that all your stuff is up to date. Browser wise, if you're giving your presentation in a browser, especially if you're using Google Slides, use Google Chrome, my favorite browser, and that's the browser that works. Make sure you have a good webcam, like the Logitech C920. I don't even care for the 922, but to each his own. But for the most part, most standard web cameras will do. Get yourself a good microphone and stand. Right? External mic is always going to be better than the built-in mic that you have in your computer. So if it's in your budget, do that. Headphones, it's really good to avoid the feedback. So if you can, I prefer earbuds, or not earbuds. I actually have wired headphones. I don't like earbuds. They always fall out of my ears. And I end up taping my headphones to my ears, and it drives me nuts. So, I mean, I've given some really important presentations with a bunch of tape stuck to me to make sure things work. But for the most part, if you can have headphones, I prefer the over the ear ones. I like to be wired in because then they will stay on my ear, right? Make sure you have good lighting. You all can see me very clearly, right? I'm not dark and faded out, right? So make sure you have good lighting. I actually have a tiny light over here, which you probably see kind of blasting a little bit, maybe too much because I adjusted that brightness a little bit much. But this little light over here, I have it on a stand. It's like $20. But because of where my window is in my studio and where my computer is against the wall, my face tends to get really dark. So having good lighting on this side is really important so that people can see me when I give a presentation. So check your lighting, right? And then obviously dual monitors. Like right now, all you guys are seeing is my presentation screen. On this other screen right here in front of me, I actually have my slides, right? So I can actually see what the next slide coming up is before I put it on the screen. Helps to make the presentation more fluid. So if you can, use dual monitors. Now for technology issues for the tech challenge, right? Spend some time on YouTube getting familiar with your technology. Even if you don't know Google Slides or PowerPoint or whatever, or Zoom or however you're giving your presentation, watch some training videos. It's okay to learn about the stuff that I don't know why people have some sort of expectation when somebody hands you a new piece of software that you're just magically supposed to know how to use it, right? This is not realistic, right? Not everybody does PowerPoint presentations or Google Slides or all this stuff, or is using Zoom. Even now, people more familiar with it, not everybody still uses Zoom or really knows how it works or gives online presentations. So, right. So spend some time on YouTube getting familiar with your technology. For software that you do use, utilize their help desk and video tutorials. If they've got a good help desk on how to do X, right? How do I create that animation in my presentation? How do I add a GIF, right? Is it the same as adding a picture? If they have a help desk or whatnot, you can utilize that as well. And that makes things a lot easier. Play with your technology to be more comfortable with it, right? The more you play with it, the better. You get used to it. I can hop on and do a presentation quickly at any time. If you give me 2 hours, I will come up with a new presentation and be good to go. Right? So that's really, really important. Always test your tech, right? Make sure everything is working, and ask someone for help. Don't afraid to ask people for help if you need it. Again, don't expect to just know everything or do everything well yourself. And then lastly, consider your environment. Oh yes, the environment, because a lot of people don't necessarily think about the type of environment that they're in when they're giving their presentation. What is going on around you, right? The first thing we have to think about is the children. I love them, but they're evil sometimes. You want to give a presentation, they start screaming in the background, Mom, Dad, nah, give it. I have 3 boys. That is a lot of poop, fart, and boogers. and all running around in the background, right? So it's important that you understand what kind of environment that you're working in and to consider that. So in terms to handle some of those interruptions and distractions regarding the children, right? Prepare a schedule for your kids, right? So they know what to expect during work, when you're giving your presentation, help them with their independence, allow them to be able to get their own toys, drinks, snacks, set food out for them. Those are really, really good, important things that you can do for your kids, because like 90% of my requests, because all my kids are 10 and under, are, Mom, I'm hungry. Mom, I want a snack. Mom, do I have to do the next thing in my homework, right? A lot of this stuff can be easily monitored if you set them up for a schedule and foster a little bit of independence for them so that you can give a presentation uninterrupted. I also have extra stuff laid out for them, right? So that they can engage in something when they're done with whatever it is that they're done with. Have some activities planned. All right, so have something for them to do. If they don't have school, have something else for them to do. Develop a code system to communicate if you need help. So my kids, they know when I'm giving a presentation, like my son, he'll walk around very slowly the back. He'll try to be nobody paying attention. Like that, he thinks like he's invisible, like I can clearly see him. But the way he walks in is really helpful because he's trying not to be a distraction. And then he'll be like, right? If you know sign language, is probably really helpful. And the last thing is don't shun your kids if they do happen to interrupt, right? I always tell my kids, if you show up on camera, you gotta say hi. If you show up on mommy's conference, you gotta say hi, because my kids are the most important thing to me. And so I don't have to shoo them out of my office just for giving an online presentation. If you know me, family is important, and you then should know my kids, okay? So that pretty much covers the kiddos. Now let's talk about the pets. They're worse than the children. So evil, right? Barking, gnawing, clawing, all of that kind of good stuff, right? So with the pets, move them you can. Outside, garage, room. Add a sign outside to let people know they cannot ring the doorbell if you have those barkers. Some people got those little dogs that like to bark for everything, right? Signs are really great. They tell people things so that they don't maybe ring the doorbell, or they'll leave a package maybe a little bit further, or put something in the mailbox. So use signs. Get your pet some treats so they'll be quiet. Give them some treats, and maybe they'll eat their little dog bone or their catnip. Maybe not catnip. I've seen some things go wrong with some catnip, and then you end up with cat butt in the middle of your video screen. It's not always good. But toys, treats, all that kind of stuff. Keep your pets occupied. You can leash them next to you. Some pets, they're only noisy because they're away from you. So don't be afraid to just have them in your room next to you and pet them, right? While you give your presentation. Or introduce them to your team. I like pets, so I like people, if they have a cat, a dog, a goldfish, whatever it may be, right? Introduce your pet, because I think that's a part of you, and I'm all about building relationships. Those are the most important things to me. Oh, and one more thing. Maven it up. As I could say, maven it up, right? Always keep your brand at the forefront. Again, my presentation is branded to my colors, my fonts, my style, and all that other kind of stuff, or at least one of my many brands, right? Being online is an excuse to be a hot mess. So get your Hollywood half done, right? At least from here up. Keep the Hollywood half looking right, okay? If you want to wear pajama pants or no pants, totally fine, right? But just make sure you keep your Hollywood half looking really nice. Lastly, get creative in all that you do, right? There are lots of things you can do to make an online presentation really awesome, but there are so many other things that I haven't even covered or touched on, right? So feel free to get creative. Don't be afraid to try new things, because you might be a maverick and make your presentation that much more memorable. So, and then lastly, whatever you do, try to do it with excellence. Do it to the best of your ability, not my ability, not Ken's ability, not Brett's ability, your ability, right? Do it to your own ability, the best that you can, because that's all people are expecting, right? Questions, anything that you want to know, you may unmute or put a question in the chat.
One thing I want to let you know is Janice put a recommendation, great YouTube videos, Dottotech. I've seen his videos. So that's Dottotech, not exactly a question, but certainly a resource.
Great. So if there are no questions, prizes, anyone? Right? I said there's not good presentations, not prizes. Who wants a prize? Raise your hand.
Me.
Everyone is eligible, including Brett, right? Okay, so the prize is a $10 Amazon gift card. So I want to play a game, okay? This is how you play. enter a number between 1 and 50 in the chat. The closest number wins, right? So if you are the number, you're the winner. If we have two people, let's say the number is, I'm not going to choose number between 1 and 50. Let's say the number is 78 and somebody chooses 79 and somebody chooses 77. The higher number wins, just so you know. So the higher number wins, just so we can avoid any confusion, right? So everybody take a second, put a number in the chat. Okay, everybody get their numbers in the chat. Right?
Hilarious. It's 1 to 50 and Reese put in 76.
Oh, I thought it was 1 to 100. Sorry.
1 to 50. 1 to 50. Reese isn't ready. 1 to 50. Okay, do over. All right. All right, last call, right? Drum roll, please. And the winning number is 22. So who has 22 or closest
Rom.
to 22?
Rom.
Ron is
Rom.
the winner. Right?
All
Congratulations, Ram.
Thank you.
You have won the $10 Amazon gift card. I will send that to your email. Congratulations. That's another tip. If you are going to do a winning number, it's already good to pick the number and put in the presentation.
Yes, say hello
Then-
to my pet. Yeah.
Hi. That's it. That's as fast as I could go.
Alex, thank you. Thank you very much. And I would just want to say for the people that are just listening, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Because we know this video is going viral.
The best way to get in touch with me is to send me an email at alex@findthemaven.com. If you don't know where to find the Maven, just findthemaven.com or type
Awesome.
in the Google toolbar, #findthemaven, and you'll find me.
And for those of you actually that are actually watching this from the chamber, that's carlsbad.org, or you could be watching it from the chamber's YouTube channel. Yes, they have a YouTube channel, which for a lot of people is a better, easier, faster way to actually get to all the videos that the chamber produces, which are a lot. So if you just go to YouTube and just do a search for Carlsbad Chamber, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you get a little ping notification for when these come up.